Welcome. I'm Debbie Rosas, and you are listening to Get In. I'm the founder and creator of the NIA Technique, an international body and life program that's been changing people's lives. I can't believe I'm saying this since 1983. 40 plus years of getting people into their body. I'm delighted to begin the 2026 series focusing on breath, that life force energy, with Laurie Bass, whose background as a NIA teacher, as a NIA trainer, as a gyrotonic teacher, as a yoga teacher, combined with her athletic history. Get this, she was a college basketball star. Currently, she's still a scratch golfer. So she provides all of us the rare opportunity to get a perspective of what does it mean to develop a relationship between body and breath, performance, mastery, presence, and blending just the right amount of effort with ease. Now, before movement has any kind of shape, before sound actually becomes me, a voice, a word, before action becomes choice, there's what? Let's all do it. Smell the moment. There's breath. Now, in NIA, breath is not something we do. We don't say to our students, breathe, breathe. They are breathing or they wouldn't be alive. Breath is something we learn to listen to. And it is the first teacher of what we call the body's way, which is the way of NIA. It's the way of life. The body's way really is a description of the body's design, its form, and function. How should we be living in relationship with our body? Now, breath, life force, it lives at the crossroads between life and movement, between life and death, between fitness, health, and well being. It is a source and it is a resource. So, before movement has any kind of shape, before sound has that voice and action becomes choice, there is that breath. Before we name it, before we shape it, it is moving us. Basically, we are being breathed all the time. It's the first rhythm of life that says, I'm here, I've arrived. And it's also the shared current between you and between me. It announces when we arrive, and it's a signal when we leave. Breath is not personal, and yet it is. But more importantly, as I said, we share it. It's communal. It's invisible fuel that we all share. It's nourishment that feeds all 50 trillion cells in our body. It cleanses, it refreshes, it stimulates, and it calms our nervous system. Breath is life force in motion. It is something we receive, something that we circulate, and something that we release. It's not something we do. As I said, it's something that we listen to. It's where form meets function, instinct can meet your awareness, and the invisible becomes something that we can feel, sense, feel, sense, and also see. Achoo! Activated through the human body. Now, what's unique to our conversation we're going to have today, it's unique to NIA, a signature of NIA as a movement art, is that we blend the wisdom of martial arts, where we use breath to organize power and gather life force in the center, releasing it with clarity, precision, and presence, with the wisdom of dance arts. We use breath to activate emotion, to give phrasing, continuity, and movement artistry to rise and fall, suspend and flow, and the wisdom of healing arts. This is where breath becomes medicine to regulate our nervous system, to stimulate us to do a little more, calm us, basically restore balance, and reconnect us to safety, sensation, the power of choice. Now, how we meet life's challenges, or right? We can hear it through breath. How we access power of this life force and how we soften without collapsing. How we listen to our breath before we act so that we don't react. This is our breath teaching us. We can use it as a teacher so that we can move through life and use breath to manage the right timing, the right rhythm, and to know when to pause, when to move, and when to just let it go with a sigh or a deep gut wrenching cry. So today's conversation is an invitation for you to breathe and for you to recognize the genius of breath and how it shapes our body and our movement, to notice how breath carries emotion and how breathing carries memory and meaning. Every inhale, remember, is an act of receiving life force, that thing that we share, that gift of being alive. Every exhale, is a gesture of release and trust. What kind of trust? Trust that the next breath will come. We don't have to think about it. This is the wisdom of the body's way, a living design, a map of form and function. And breath, well, breath is the bridge between our body, mind, emotion, spirit, wisdom, and our soul. And when sound and movement integrate with breath, we can listen to life unfolding, and we can participate in the unfolding of life every single moment. Laurie Bass, I want to welcome you. I am thrilled to have you here in this conversation.
Thank you, Debbie. And congratulations on 40 plus years of this revolutionary fitness practice that has made its way around the entire globe.
Wow, thank you.
Yeah,
Well,
it's my pleasure.
I got to tell you what I hear in your sound right now. I know you've gone through a big loss, a loss of I'm going to call him your Nia partner, and
I went through
Fred
3
Bass.
losses. Mm-hmm.
And I
Mm-hmm.
know that you have had your moments of release, your moments of emotional feeling, and I can hear a lower tone in your voice. When you pause right now and you sense yourself breathing, who do you feel is emerging in this season of your life, this moment of your life, not professionally, but personally?
And when I pause and connect to my breath, my breathing, I really sense my most embodied sense of self emerging and expanding and allowing myself to be with the world around me in a more softened way.
The softening way.
Yeah.
I find personally that when I am hit with a transitional change,
Yeah.
unexpected, and it throws me down to the ground where I feel like I just wail like a baby, and I stand back up, and you know this from the 5 stages, and I stand back up. I go from the ground back up into standing. Everything has changed. The parts of me that were holding have released, which makes sense that my sound would have a lower timpani kind of sound. Um, was there a moment when you realized that breath was not just something that you did just to sustain your life, but it was something that you could have a deeper relationship to, that you could relate to, listen to, and partner with to get through what knocked you down?
Well, yeah, it does both. It gets through what knocked me down. Excuse me, I'm going to cough, boys. I'm going to trust the guys to edit that out.
Actually, no. You know why? Because that's your body reorganizing your breath so you can speak, and it's, this is emotional stuff we're talking about. So it makes sense. Your body's responding. I love it. We get to hear how the body is managing your emotion with breath.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for that. As I was reflecting on the conversation we're going to have and this relationship with breath, throughout my lifetime, you mentioned athletics and playing basketball. And that was in training and practicing. I first became aware of my breath and how I could use that as a partner to calm my nervous system, to be in the zone, right? And to sustain a higher level of performance. And then my next step in terms of deepening that relationship with breath came upon the discovery of yoga. And wow, I can breathe more than just in the front of my body, my lungs, but I had access to a three-dimensional breath, breath above, breath below, breath behind me, and then to have the breath partner with me in holding poses or in moving through poses. So that was transformational for me, perceiving my breath as more than just my lungs, but being able to really be in my entire body and support me. And exploring different styles of breathing in yoga, in pranayama, and then discovering Nia, and the transformation there was bringing in the body's way education and learning about the design of the breathing system and the cardiovascular system and the diaphragm. And then you just said it earlier, the 75 trillion cells that vibrate with aliveness, every cell being a set of lungs. And even my skin, when I can tune in the sensation of my skin and let my skin be breathed and breathe with my skin, that's when I'm the lightest, when I feel the most supported and expanded. And riding that wave of movement, you mentioned the 5 stages, and really just allowing the breath to move me, allowing each stage to move me and to do me without me efforting in each stage. And every time rising from standing into walking and sensing that blast of energy, that blast of reorganization of my cells having broken apart and then coming back together. And the journey continued on my discovery of the gyrotonic system and learning to ride the wave of breath in every single movement and ocean breath as it recedes and comes back into my body. And then riding that wave of grief and how can breath support me? And it's such a reflection of my state of being, of the sobbing and not being able to take the breath and holding the breath and going, wait a second, you've got to surrender to this. And then sensing that, as you say, the disorganization of that racking grief of suffering, not one loss, a soul loss, but other losses in this last 6 months. So that compounding. And so breath has really been a partner. And
I
yeah,
love
yeah,
your description of the partnership in relationship with different movement art forms,
yeah,
gyrotonics, yoga, and then also partnering with breath to, in a sense, we talk about this in Cytogenesis, that beautiful work of Aaron Anastovsky. 3 beautiful measurements to notice what's going on with you so you can sustain what we call health ease versus feeding disease, but putting attention on health ease, understanding manageability and meaning. And I know for me, watching what my breath does it release? Does it grab and hold? Does it push, right? Does it flow? All of these sensations that I can perceive as I go through my life help me emotionally know what's going on. So when I do that, it's like, okay, what do you want to say you're not saying, or what surprised you? When I just when I just sigh, what is it, Debbie, that you're saying with that sigh? What would happen if you put words to that? Oh, Lori, that's amazing. That kind of thing might come out of my mouth. So it's amazing with this invisible life force how much we're saying by breathing, but not saying. And I love that is as the exploration. If your breath could speak about your life right now, right? Your breath is there and say, let me tell you about Laura. What would it say right now?
Well, it would say, it's whispering, "I've got you. I've got you."
Yeah.
Surrender into me. Be with me.
Yeah. And when you say those intimate words, I get to feel you. And I love that intimacy, that up close personal. So thank you for being vulnerable and sharing yourself in such a beautiful way. I want to move now to what we call the body of work, the work, the practice, the voice of practice, body and life practice. I'm talking about breath here. And when we think about having a practice of breathing, particularly in the world of Nia, we talk about how breath is stimulated in different ways through martial arts, dance arts, and healing arts. But in that you are so diverse in your knowledge, your skill, and your integration of breath as a tool, right? When you speak of breath as fitness, what does it mean to move beyond just the lungs and taking in oxygen and cardiovascular fitness? What what expansive world do you think about when you think about breath and fitness?
Personally, I have the image of the bubble, the kinesphere, where I'm in that bubble of beautiful oxygen and life force all around me. So it's beyond just what's inside of me. I can tap in what's outside of me. And then you've taught me also to breathe, speak, and then the sounding and adding sound and variety and movement, especially the Mia way. It just does something to our connective tissue and it releases and stimulates energy flow in an entirely different way. And I find that the more pliable I am, the more I have access to my breath in every part of me.
Yeah, pliable, adaptability. That's one of, I think, the gifts of the signature of Nia that in 1983 we started to bring in to fuse different arts, martial arts, dance arts, and healing arts. So the the exercise that we teach in Nia is the sound of power. And that sound, that comes from martial arts. It's known as ki, right? We also use the sound ha, ki, hey, ho, an outward sound. It's a spirited kind of yell, but it's not about the word or the volume that we hear. It's not a shout from our throat. It is the release of life force, that ki, that chi, rising from the center of the body. So everybody could do it right now. Put your hand on that soft area under your ribs and just go, ha, 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 ha. And you'll notice possibly a compressive sound of tissue moving in. Ki, 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 or say,
Ki.
hey, 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 ho, ho. And that centered expression is a sound that originates deep in the diaphragm. Lori talked about it, and the core. And it's carried on a hut, a sharp hut, intentional exhalation. This is what we teach in martial arts. And that sharp, intentional exhalation, it organizes systemically the whole body, your mind, your emotions, your muscles, your bones, joints, everything synchronizes. Energy gathers and it moves outward. And so we use that sound, hut, with a chop, or with a hut, an inward block, or with an hut, an outward punch, or with a kick. And that creates a beautiful kinetic chain that turns movement into action, action into presence. We don't use sound just as a decoration or for fun in martial arts. Breath isn't secondary, and it's not secondary in life either. Voice is not optional, but it becomes a functional force, a way that the body communicates power to itself. The way it tones the core, you tone your core and abdominal muscles making sound. The way it amplifies confidence and it awakens instinct. One of the things that I love about making sound in martial arts, if you get a little lazy in your workout or in your workout in class, it startles stagnation. It just startles. I can see people wake up in class. It clears hesitation and fear, and it gives your movement direction. This is what I'm doing. So when sound meets movement, effort becomes very efficient. Expression becomes embodied. It becomes your body's way, and power becomes an intelligent sound of breath. Remember, it's not yelling. It's not even performance, but it's power, the sound of breath made audible. And that's the beauty of the martial arts. Laurie, I know that you have a beautiful education in gyrotonics, and I love that program. How do you use breath from a martial perspective, from a precision and fluid way?
Yeah, with a developed practice, breath comes into play in terms of when to breathe in, when to breathe out, from a two breath pattern to more of a double breath or a quicker breath, and even into a squeeze breath, a panting like a kundalini breath. So there are spaces within the system for riding that wave of breath and
Give me an
supporting us.
example of what the panting breath sounds like.
Well, you would be lying on your back on all fours,
Okay.
and it's through the nose. You're sniffing outward. You go,
Oh, okay. I like that.
yeah, yeah,
Right.
outward.
So it's a good filler, right?
Yeah, and it's just this fluttering of the diaphragm. Yeah, absolutely.
Nice. And fluttering is so good to loosen places that
Yeah,
get stuck,
yeah.
right?
It just clears things out.
Clears things out. I love that
Absolutely.
about breathing. It really does. Stepping away when you feel stressed or tense or angry and just pausing. I call it the 30-second timeout and just close your eyes and breathe. Calm that nervous system. I love the way in both Nia, yoga, gyrotonics, it invites a more sensuous relationship with the body, breath, and movement. There's for me, a heightened sense of pleasure, an integrated rhythm, which brings me into a deeper presence of the activity that I'm doing. Um, Have you found that through the integration of the Nia arts, martial arts, dance arts, and healing arts, that you've stopped pushing your speed, but that the speed is changing on its own based on the movement art,
Mhm.
and that your breath is changing the timing? on its own just by changing the movement art? And how's this affected your dance?
Yeah, absolutely. The breath, tapping into the power of the martial arts and finding my voice and that voice from the hara. That took me years, as you well know. Very much so. And learning to tune in to going into that point where, okay, that's enough of that type of movement or that type of breathing. I need to shape shift, whether that's with modern dance, a squeeze and release that impacts every system of my body, or with lightness and Duncan dance, it shifts the chemistry upwards for sure. And then the calmness of tapping into the healing arts and really bringing myself to my felt sense, my internal experience.
You know, you bring up a really important point. You brought it up, so I'll dig a little deeper.
Okay.
It's personal and it's intimate. Um, I get the joy of watching someone emerge and integrate what we would consider the yang masculine with the yin feminine sound resonance. And those are the twin partners. They are the energies that create a quality of balance, as you said, the squeeze and release, the in and the out, the timing, the pause, the dynamic that we can feel. And I've loved watching you get more comfortable with your yang and with your low tone, which I can hear. And part of hearing a low tone, a relaxed voice, which you're conveying right now, is a reflection of yin and yang energy integrated. It doesn't have to be loud and it doesn't have to be forced, but there's a resonance, there's an expression that for me is tangible. So I want to let you know I see the change.
Thank you, Debbie.
Yeah. The dance arts.
Yeah.
Now, I think when I watch basketball, when I watch golf, when I watch any sport, I see a dance art. I see systemic movement, the body in motion. And it amazes me when I watch it at a level of mastery, right? And you certainly have arrived to that level. When it comes to breath and the dance arts, it's not commanded, but the breath becomes a response in dance arts through emotion. So we bring in jazz, modern, Duncan dance. Each stirs a different kind of emotion, which then shifts the movement, not by command, do this, but just as the natural shape shifting power that breath has. The movement itself also reshapes our breath. And this is how our dance begins to speak, for example, to an audience or to us, sensing our own dance. So rather than gathering power to throw the hands up in the air, we use breath to, to modulate our movement expression, which modulates the shape. It may lengthen fingers in a very unique way that you couldn't get to if you wanted to think about it. And more importantly, when we bring emotion into movement and our breath changes, our heart opens. It suspends us in moments of longing, of wanting to hold on to that personal sensation. It can quicken with joy, right? And it can tremble with vulnerability. It can soften with grief. And it can surge with a desire for more. Our breath becomes a way to create movement art phrasing. I call it body calligraphy in motion, painting in space. Breath then with emotion gives rhythm to the motion, texture to the time. So when we are with dance arts, the body doesn't tell the breath what to do, but the body listens. It listens to what's happening to the breath through this emotion, this expression. As I rise and I fall, as I feel, as I express. It shapes weight transfer. Arms float or arms slice or fists tighten or soften. Our spine curves or it lifts or it yields. Emotion becomes motion, and breath becomes the bridge between the inner experience and what we see on the outside. Breath is not mechanical, it's not imposed, it's relational. So when you hear me talk about this and you think about, Lori, when you think about relational, what is it you do with your breath when you're ready to hit the ball in golf?
When I'm ready to hit the ball,
Yeah. What's going on with your breath?
I know, I pause, really. I pause and I take a breath in before I move. That's for sure. And there is an action for me. I have a time where I inhale in my backswing, I pause, and I exhale in my forward swing. So that works for me in golf.
Well, it fits with fitness that they say exhale when you need force, right? Because you're
Yes.
letting go. You don't
Yes.
want to have an outward motion and an inward breath. Totally makes sense.
And it's not forced. It's just it's the calming, it's the timing
Yeah.
of that to
It's
go
the
with.
wind
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
underneath that
Yeah.
that 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 beautiful the wind behind your swing, right?
Yes.
Beautiful. Yeah, I can
Yeah, 'cause
see it. It's
I've
elegant.
tested it. I've tested it. If I hold, I tested that theory. I mean, I'm gonna hold my breath, right? And that doesn't work. The ball goes nowhere.
How has breath changed the way you relate to aging, vulnerability, uncertainty, what's going on
Breath as it relates
to
to
aging, for
aging. Yeah,
example?
yeah, to aging. It's so important to really deepen an awareness of breath and to have I know there's this hot button term of having a breathing practice, right?
Right.
And Nia has taught me I can breathe through life as I dance through life. So that practice is with me all of the time in terms of that. And in relationship to what were the other ones?
Well, vulnerability,
Yes,
and what's
vulnerability.
happening in the world right now.
Yeah. So in relationship to vulnerability, it actually is it's given me a soft landing and the confidence. There's a confidence and courage to be vulnerable and to allow what's happening to happen and really to allow others to see that unfold as that's happening. That's been the big growing edge for me is just allowing myself to be seen and to be held.
Why do you think it is that and none of us get out of life without having pain, without having tragedy? Nobody does.
Well,
There's always something.
pain is growing. It's aliveness. I mean,
Right. So, but
that's a marker of being
why
alive.
do you think it takes that
Oh,
to, as you say, soften, open, be more available, not only to yourself, but to others in the world around? Why?
well, there was a point where pre the big stuff like this, it's like I felt I was very, very open and very compassionate.
Hmm.
But then this just knocked me into the next level
Okay.
of being, I would say, and a feeling even deeper. Having experienced loss in the past, but then the closer those people are to you,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. I think, meaning, it becomes more meaningful. The pain has more purpose. The loss has more purpose. And the peeling away, I love Gil Hedley's model of anatomy, the onion, that we are just layers. Physically, that may be true. And I think to get down to um, our heart, the
Yeah.
resonance of our pure heart, there are layers that need to be peeled away. And for me, those layers are defenses.
Mhm.
When I hold myself, or I don't want to hear the other side, or I don't want to let something in, right? Rather than just breathing and using some of these beautiful tools that we've received from the healing arts in NIA. So in NIA, we work with different tools different ways to utilize breath, for example. So, to integrate the energy body, which has its own anatomy of 7 chakras and 7 ethereal layers, to integrate that with the physical body and to use that life force to help stay grounded and centered and focused. We teach vowel sounds to support each chakra. You can sound with me right now. Chakra 1, the sound is ah, and you can sense how your jaw drops. Ah, chakra 1, it's the root. Chakra 2, the sensual sacral. The sound is ooh, ooh, sensuality, the softening that Laura was talking about. And the third chakra, the solar plexus, that soft belly area where we did the huh, right? Oh, oh, oh,
Oh,
oh.
oh.
And then the heart, the fourth center. The sound is ah, and you just feel this falling into whatever shows up. And then the throat chakra 5, I. Look at how the
Right.
jaw drops.
I,
I
I,
have something
I.
meaningful to say, right? And then the sixth chakra, the sound is A. I always remember that because of the shape of the nose. A. And then finally, the
And
seventh chakra above the head, no spinal contact, no physical contact. The sound is E, as in free. So, a beautiful tool for me when I'm wanting to peel those layers away, as you talked about, Lori, is to just go through ah, ooh, oh, ah, ooh, oh, to, a sense, tune my chakra system and calm my nervous system. This creates the sound that I can make, allows for a vibration, my sound vibration, to resonate through my tissues, my organs, certainly all 50 trillion cells. I used to say 75, now they say 50. Who's counting? I don't know, but I'll go with the 50. The vibrating the cells, right? The atoms of cells, the molecules, the tissues, the organs, nerves, fascia, and me. And sound becomes a gentle internal massage. And I think that what I said, why do we need the pain? It becomes an internal massage to break us open. And so does sound. So crying is then a way for us to massage and to hydrate our inner space, to soften what we were holding on to, and to invite the circulation of this life force energy where life force may feel restricted, right? We may be afraid to let it out. We also use this beautiful phrase, which I love. I imagine you've added it to your yoga and gyrotonics. Let's smell the moment and sip the air. We don't want to suck on the air, right? Smell the moment, sip the air. And in doing so, we just are brought into our own experience, become curious what's going on. So our attention brings us into the presence of the moment. This always invites a fuller, more functional, nourishing breath that fits our body, which is so very important. We also have the longer sustained sound. Man, and I love to do this. And here's this one, Lori. The moment I get triggered, like last night, and I was like, I felt my jaw clenching, and I went, you know what, Debbie? Just smell the moment and exhale longer.
okay.
And that lengthening of the release, it quieted my nervous system. I felt less peed off, you know what I mean? And allowed the tension of that moment to just kind of dissolve. And that's what I love about having somatic tools and techniques. And that's what I love about a somatic approach to anything, whether it's golf or basketball, yoga, gyrotonics. It's at the heart of Nia, the body's way. That is the somatics, the methodology of the body's design and function. And I think another one that's one of my favorites, which came, Lori, through the 5 stages therapeutic practice. Body awareness, walk. Body, sensing, and then observing places in the body that feel tight, rigid, bound, blocked. Takes just a few moments to become observant of what's going on with your body now. And the second part of that, oh, and I love also talking to the body and saying, I notice, body, that my low back is tight, right? And then just letting it go. But the second part of that is becoming aware of the body. And this is so tight and tied to breath. Becoming aware of the body's internal volume and space by smelling the moment, using the numbers 1 through 10, and measuring how much space do I have in. A lot of space, I'm pretty relaxed. Not too much, I got a lot of that holding on. Um, if we honor what we sense, then breath can become something that we use that becomes more functional as medicine for us. And certainly breath as a stress buster. This is a funny memory I have of when Carlos and I were on AM Northwest, and we did a series on releasing stress. And we took pillows and we had the whole audience yell into the pillow because then you can't necessarily hear it, but you're letting the energy out. It's one of my very favorites. I still do it. I also like taking a rag in my mouth at work and going, "Argh." Again, using my breath. So it's about gentle, functional movements, exercises that we can bring in to our everyday life. So we're not necessarily fixing our body,
Right.
but we're not overriding sensation, but we're supporting our body in the moment, and we're supporting our body's design and function. What's your favorite go-to when stress is like at the max?
My favorite go to is moving through the 5 stages and moving up and down as well. And then laughter. Even when I'm not feeling like laughing, I incorporate the laughter practice of belly down, belly up, sitting and rising and walking. That shifts my internal chemistry and that shifts my emotions, and I feel so much lighter. So adding that to our body wisdom practice.
This reminds me a little bit of not just the sensuousness, of breath, but how powerful it is to go down to the ground and to just lay down. It's a stress buster for me just to get down on the floor, whether it's belly down or, as you said, in gyrotonics on your bath and sniff it, whatever it is. Just the fact of putting the body in relationship to the ground is so, so important. That making that exchange between body and earth, right, and space around us. And I know a lot of people resist going down to the floor. There's a sense of vulnerability, of fear, and it's so, so important. Yeah. Um, we have lots and lots of different voiceover guidance practices in the 5 stages. Do you have one that has been just one of your favorites that's changed the way you breathe and the way you dance and move?
Well, I love the voice of breath and I love the updated one that you just sent me. I'm gonna use that. I think it's
Oh,
just beautiful.
awesome. Well, I'm constantly learning and constantly
Yeah,
updating. And I think when I first started writing The Voices of, I was
yeah.
way into the science and the parts. And I hadn't yet embodied enough of the sensation of the science and the craft to let the art emerge. So thank you. I feel like it's more poetic and it's more of an artistic sharing. So I appreciate that. Yay.
Absolutely, Debbie, and that the poetic voice that you tap into in the voices of, that transformed me from being up here in my
In your
logical
head.
thinking brain to my more just receiving creative. and
Yay.
allowing it to flow. Yeah.
All
So thank
right.
you for that,
Well,
bringing me to balance.
oh, you bet. Well, as a beautiful way to end this wonderful conversation about breath, I'd like you all to get comfortable, and I want you to listen to breath gratitude. I love to write a gratitude to all parts of my body. It's a way for me to remember the gift of this body and this life in this lifetime. So get comfortable, take a nice, beautiful breath in, turn your palms up, and just let your lower jaw relax and listen. Thank you, breath, body, for breathing me, for entering and leaving without demand, for being the rhythm I do not have to remember, the pulse of survival and renewal that has been with me since my very first moment and what stays until my last. Thank you, breath body, for the simple miracle of inhale and exhale, for the way you welcome life in and release what is no longer needed. Thank you, thank you for the tides, your waves, your pauses, your wisdom of timing that knows when to soften and when to engage. Thank you, breath body, for the gift of oxygen, for nourishing every cell, feeding the fires of metabolism and partnering with my blood, my heart, my tissues to sustain the dance of living. Thank you, breath body, for the intimate conversation with my nervous system, for calming me when I'm overwhelmed and awakening me when I am dull or tired. Thank you for your direct line to my vagus nerve, your ability to shift me from urgency to ease, from protection to presence. Thank you, body, for the way you shape my posture, expand my ribs, mobilize my spine, massage my organs, and hydrate my fascia. Thank you for three-dimensional movement, front, back, sides, top, and bottom, teaching my body how to receive space and create room from the inside out. Thank you, breath body, for your partnership with sound and voice, for turning air into vibration, vibration into tone, and tone into expression, into prayer, laughter, sigh, and song. Thank you, breath body, for reminding me that voice begins not in the throat, but in the breath. Thank you, breath body, for breathing even when I sleep, when I dream, and when I forget myself. Thank you for your devotion, your constancy, your loyalty to life. Thank you, breath body, for being the bridge between my conscious and unconscious worlds, the meeting place of body, mind, emotion, and spirit and soul. With you, when I choose to slow down, to listen, to feel, to return home to myself, I remember our partnership. Thank you, breath body, for teaching me that I am never alone, that life is always entering me, leaving me, and inviting me into relationship with all that is and with this moment. Thank you for breathing me into being again, 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 and again. Beautiful. Well, in Nia, we say knowledge becomes wisdom when it is lived. So I hope you have been inspired to live more with your breath today. Breath is where living begins. I want to thank you very much for listening to Get In. And you can find more information about Laurie Bass by going to Laurie at lauriebass.com. That's Laurie at lauriebass.com, all lowercase. And you can find her also on Nia and on Nia on Demand. You can work out with her. Nia on Demand, you get 2 weeks free to try it out. And you can find me also on Nia and Nia on Demand and on Facebook by searching Nia or Twitter or Instagram at the Nia Technique. Remember that this is the most important time for us to get into our body and life. I'm Debbie Rosas, and I'll see you next time. Thanks so much, Laurie.